This is a situation, I suppose, Mr. Southworth, that you wouldn't have wanted to find yourself in, a public examination, basically, of why a building should be bought and how valuable it is to the nation.
I welcome the fact that the public are debating historic buildings. There's a huge amount of interest and enthusiasm for the island's heritage. We've always known about that. That's why we have 6,000 friends. That's why hundreds of thousands of people come through our sites every year. People log on to us online and things like that. We know that people are passionate about their heritage. And so this is just one example where people have walked past a building, seen a for sale sign in the window, and said, "What's going on? What aren't procedures in place to stop this sort of thing?"
It is a unique building, is it not? A Bailey Scott police station, designed police station.
It was quite interesting, really, listening to all the comments. It's one of his early works. It's the only police station he designed, and he designed it to replace what was a lean-to building against
the castle walls. Yeah.
But it was also designed clearly because at that time the court was still sitting in the castle. The fancy turrets reflected the fact that at that time the castle had turrets like that. The pointed roofs were there when it was built. So its synergy with the castle, with the location within the townscape, is quite remarkable.
You're making the argument for why you didn't. Why didn't you buy the thing? Why didn't you just snap it up?
I think there's a couple of fundamental questions here. The MNH is a hybrid agency. We're used to hybrid cars now, so we understand that you can be two things at once. We are the statutory agency for the island. We get government money to do things that the government wants us to do.
But you're getting less of it. 7 years you've had less of it.
The principle of the thing is that we still do get funding. And so we perform functions like looking after Castle Rushen. Castle Rushen was transferred to us 30-odd years ago, as was the Laxey Wheel, as was Peel Castle. They were originally government property trustees. But it's accepted that they are the sort of community assets that no one is going to ever dispose of, and therefore they are looked after in trust for future generations. So the MNH is a trustee organisation, and the trustees are very transitory in that sense. They're thinking about future generations. But part of our remit is as the national trust for the island, and since the 1950s we've had charitable status. And there are some things that the government doesn't pay for at all. The Calf of Man, we look after, the trustees pay for that. We've got a number of charitable functions and purposes, and we try and keep them separate. Just for example, the Peggy at the moment is out of Castletown. It's in a building where we're looking after it. That building was acquired by the trustees using charitable funds. We wouldn't ask the government for something like that. We do ask the government to look after the Nautical Museum and pay the gas bills. And I think people can see there's a clear distinction between these two roles.
This is a very public row that's going on at the moment. A lot of opinion, mostly on the side of that the island has to hang on to this. There's nothing deliberate about this, about bringing it out into the public to build up support for yourself.
We were as surprised as anyone when the sale board, appeared and people started posting on social media, started taking this into their own hands, as it were. We have responded and reacted. We have certainly not provoked this at all.
It must be top of your hit list as a desirable building to be acquired by MNH.
We are very, very careful about what we acquire. As you said before, our funding from government is going down. We're doing a lot more trading activity to try and balance our books. We estimate that we're probably spending £2 million a year less in real terms.
You're not trying to underline the fact by doing this?
No. That's a high-risk strategy, and when you're looking after things for the future generations, you don't do high risk. We're trying to work in partnership with the government here, and we've identified that this is an important building. We would be perfectly happy to look after it. We can think of a number of uses for it. I have to confess that the idea of a police museum in such a small building is almost certainly tricky to sustain financially, but we'd be delighted if there are local communities who want to do that. We could talk to them about it. But I'm sure it has a sustainable future use.
The Home Affairs Minister said you were in talks with the Treasury. How accurate a statement is that?
Well, perfectly accurate. There were emails yesterday afternoon looking at the different options.
So what's the latest, you mean, perhaps on the table, if I could put it that way?
I think what we're trying to look for is a solution which is almost like a hybrid solution, going back to that. I keep saying to people, 50-50 sounds a good compromise. I'm sure we can, I'm sure there are ways we can move forward.
Well, how do you mean 50-50? What do you mean by that?
Maybe there's some way we can share
the cost
with the government in some form. I mean, the details are for Treasury. I mean, at the moment, this is sitting with Treasury. I don't want to give the impression that I'm passing the buck, but trustees have said they don't want to give to the government a charitable subvention. That will be, I think, very dubious, probably unethical. And in any case, a lot of the money that we have has been given to us by the community. We've had some legacies recently. And some of those things have got strings attached, quite rightly. Owners, people who've given us money, want to see it spent on particular things. They don't want necessarily to see it given to the Treasury.
If nothing has come out of this, it has certainly heightened the profile for the general public of this building.
I think raising the awareness is hugely important. We have so many things on our doorsteps that we walk past, and an occasion like this makes you look at something and say, actually, yes, that is something special.